In just 47 seconds, $340 billion in unaccounted EU expenditures surfaced in a single budgetary annex. Angela Merkel didn't wait for the session to formally begin. She walked directly to the podium, placed a black dossier marked Haushaltskontrolle vertraulich on the desk, and looked straight at Ursula von der Leyen. The cameras adjusted focus. The European Parliament held its breath. What did Angela Merkel uncover that forced the most powerful woman in Brussels to defend decisions she thought were buried in bureaucratic footnotes? I'm standing in the press gallery of the European Parliament in Strasbourg, watching something that hasn't happened in decades. A former chancellor, supposedly retired from active politics, has just entered the chamber like someone carrying evidence that could detonate the institutional architecture of the European Union. Merkel's face shows no emotion, but her posture radiates controlled fury. She's not here for protocol, she's here for answers. The date is February 11th, 2026. The time is exactly 14:42 CET. What began as a routine budgetary review session has just transformed into a political trial. Von der Leyen sits in the Commission President's chair, her hands folded on the table. But I can see the tension in her jaw. She knows what's coming. The entire room knows. For months, rumors have circulated about financial irregularities in the Commission's handling of the Recovery and Resilience Facility. Today, those rumors have a face, a voice, and a dossier. Merkel begins speaking in German, her voice steady and clinical. Frau Präsidentin, Article 310 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union requires full transparency in budgetary execution. I am here to ask you directly about Transaction Code RRF 2024 DEU 18B, dated August 3, 2024. This transaction diverted $89 million designated for German renewable energy infrastructure into a consultancy fund based in Luxembourg. The consultancy in question, Eurogreen Strategic Partners, lists your former chief of staff as a senior advisor. The chamber erupts. Not in shouts, but in a wave of controlled panic. MEPs scramble for their tablets. Translators pause mid-sentence. Von der Leyen's expression shifts from composed to defensive in exactly 3 seconds. I've covered European politics for 15 years, and I've never seen a commission president visibly rattled in real time. Von der Leyen stands, her voice clipped and precise. Frau Bundeskanzlerin, these allegations are based on incomplete information. The transaction you reference was part of a legitimate technical assistance framework approved by the Budgetary Control Committee. Merkel doesn't blink. Then explain why the same consultancy received $127 million in separate contracts from France, Italy, and Spain within a 6-week period, all under the same framework, all bypassing competitive tender requirements under Article 167 of the Financial Regulation. Silence. 4 seconds of absolute silence. Even the cameras seem to stop moving. I'm watching von der Leyen's hands. They're trembling slightly. She reaches for a glass of water, but her chief of staff, Björn Seibert, leans in and whispers something urgent. She pulls her hand back. That hesitation tells me everything. This isn't a routine defense. This is damage control in real time. Merkel continues, and now she's holding up a document. This is a leaked internal memo from the Directorate General for Budget, dated January 17, 2025. It references a priority allocation mechanism that allowed certain member states to access RRF funds without standard verification protocols. The memo explicitly names you, Frau von der Leyen, as the authorizing official. The Patriots for Europe faction erupts in applause. The Greens and Renew Europe sit frozen. Manfred Weber, leader of the EPP, looks like a man watching his political legacy collapse. Von der Leyen is still standing, but her body language has shifted. She's no longer the confident technocrat. She's a defendant. Frau Merkel, von der Leyen says, her voice sharper now. You are no longer in government. This chamber operates under specific rules of procedure. and you do not have the authority to present unverified documents in a plenary session. Merkel's response is devastating. I am here as a German citizen and former head of government who signed the treaties that created the Recovery Fund. I have every right to demand accountability for how $800 billion of European taxpayer money is being spent. And I am not presenting unverified documents. I am presenting evidence obtained through a Freedom of Information request filed by the German Federal Audit Office. That last sentence lands like a grenade. The German Federal Audit Office is one of the most respected institutions in Europe. If they're involved, this isn't a political stunt. This is a formal investigation. Twitter explodes. Within 90 seconds, Merkel vs. von der Leyen is trending across the EU. Politico pushes a breaking news alert. TikTok clips of Merkel's entrance are already hitting millions of views. The European Press Corps is filing stories in real time, and I can see my editor frantically messaging me for updates. Von der Leyen attempts to regain control. The Commission operates with full transparency. Every cent of the Recovery and Resilience Facility is subject to audits by the European Court of Auditors. If there are concerns, they should be addressed through proper channels, not through media spectacle. Merkel's voice cuts through the room. The European Court of Auditors has been requesting access to these specific transaction records for 14 months. Your office has denied every request, citing confidentiality clauses that do not exist in the founding treaties. Why? Von der Leyen's chief of staff stands up and whispers something urgent. She shakes her head. He insists. She finally nods. This is the moment I've been waiting for. She's about to make a decision that will define the next 6 months of European politics. This session, von der Leyen announces, her voice tight, will be suspended for procedural review. The Commission will provide a comprehensive response within 48 hours. But Merkel isn't done. Frau Präsidentin, the German government has submitted a formal request for a vote of no confidence in the European Commission under Article 234 of the treaty. The Council of Ministers will convene on February 18th. You have 7 days to provide answers, not 48 hours. The room detonates. MEPs are shouting. The President of the Parliament is hammering the gavel. Security personnel move closer to the podium. Von der Leyen's face has gone pale. She gathers her papers, signals to her team, and walks toward the exit. But as she passes Merkel, the former chancellor says something that the microphones barely catch. You were supposed to protect the institution, Ursula, not hollow it out. Von der Leyen stops. For a moment, I think she's going to respond, but she doesn't. She just keeps walking, surrounded by her security detail, leaving behind a chamber in absolute chaos. The markets react instantly. The euro drops 0.6% against the dollar. German government bonds spike. The DAX index in Frankfurt trembles. Investors see what politicians are trying to ignore. If the German government is willing to challenge the Commission this publicly, the foundational trust of the European Union is fracturing. I'm filing my story now, and I'm telling my editor what I saw. This wasn't political theater. This was Angela Merkel, the woman who held Europe together through the financial crisis, the refugee crisis, and Brexit, drawing a line in the sand. She's telling von der Leyen and the entire Brussels establishment that the era of unaccountable technocracy is over. The question now is whether von der Leyen can survive the next 7 days, because if the Council of Ministers moves forward with a vote of no confidence, and if Germany's evidence holds up, we're looking at the first forced resignation of a Commission president in EU history. And that, my friends, changes everything. But there's more. I'm getting reports from sources inside the Parlement that Merkel's dossier contains a second layer of evidence that hasn't been revealed yet. Transaction records showing that between March 2024 and November 2025, a total of $1.8 billion in RRF funds were processed through intermediary accounts in Malta and Cyprus before reaching their stated destinations. The delay patterns are identical. The approval signatures are identical, and every single transaction bypassed the standard dual authorization protocol. At 15:17 CET, exactly 35 minutes after the confrontation, the European Public Prosecutor's Office issues a statement. The EPPO confirms receipt of documentary evidence related to potential financial irregularities in the administration of Recovery and Resilience Facility funds. A preliminary assessment is underway. That's the language of a criminal investigation, not a political dispute. A criminal investigation. The Commission's press room is silent. The scheduled briefing has been cancelled. No explanation given. Inside the Parliament chamber, MEPs gather in clusters. The EPP is in emergency session. Manfred Weber is reportedly furious, not at Merkel, but at von der Leyen for putting the party in this position. At 16:03 CET, German Finance Minister Christian Lindner holds a press conference in Berlin. He confirms that the Federal Audit Office has been investigating RRF fund allocation mechanisms since October 2024. He confirms that the German government will formally request a special session of the European Council to address what he calls systemic failures in budgetary oversight. The financial markets react immediately. European bank stocks drop. The spread between German and Italian government bonds widens. Currency traders move into dollar positions. This isn't about one politician anymore. This is about the credibility of the entire European project. A senior Commission official, speaking anonymously, tells me, "We knew this was coming. We just didn't think Merkel would be the one to pull the trigger. She's untouchable. You can't dismiss her as a populist. She is the establishment, and that's what makes this so dangerous." This is about the credibility of the entire European project. A senior Commission official, speaking anonymously, tells me, "We knew this was coming. We just didn't think Merkel would be the one to pull the trigger. She's untouchable. You can't dismiss her as a populist. She is the establishment, and that's what makes this so dangerous."